Hi everyone, I am Ola Michalec, and this was, by the way, was supposed to be a double act with Professor Genevieve Lively, also at the University of Bristol, as we both represent here the Research Institute for Sociotechnical Cybersecurity, or RISCS, and I'm about to introduce the institute, but also tell you a little bit about the research that we have been doing. So just, can I have a show of hands who has heard about RISCS, so I don't have to okay, great, wow, so maybe I can just skip the first 2 minutes, great. The job is done. Anyway, today I will start with a quick introduction to the Institute, tell you a little bit about our upcoming project called RISCS Playbook, introduce some key concepts on what do we actually mean by sociotechnical cybersecurity and security by design. And these are not always clear things too, so we kind of have to provoke some new definitions around them. I will share some of my empirical research from the cybersecurity industry, and I'll wrap up with some cybersecurity artwork. The RISCS Institute is one of the cybersecurity research institutes founded by the National Cybersecurity Center, and is currently led by Professor Genevieve Lively, and is based at the University of Bristol. And as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, we are the very first academic research institute to focus at cybersecurity, but from the people first, organizations first, and culture first perspectives. That's really exciting, I think. And our aim is to predominantly build the cybersecurity community, which is first of all interdisciplinary. It's diverse, but also it's inclusive of various perspectives. And in RISCS, we do a range of activities. First of all, we've got this interdisciplinary fellowship program where people at all levels of all levels of seniority can be involved in the activities of the institutes, run their own events, so attend our events, drive a research agenda on new topics. We also host events with the NCSC and other cybersecurity research institutes. Sometimes they are national open, sometimes they're more internal about driving the future of research. But primarily what we do is very much kind of behind the scenes, and it's very difficult to articulate what actually the kind of behind the scenes mobilization of people involves. So anyone who considers themselves a community builder, you will know just how many conversations you have to have with people, how this work is political. It's about persuasion, convincing people that this is a worthy line of work, and you should come to this event, you should participate in this. I'm sure, Jason, quite a lot about mobilization and building community. So exactly that's what we're doing here, and that's similarly that's something that we do at RISCS. With regards to the structure of the institute, Genevieve is our director, Dr. Louise Evans is the manager, and Harriet Lloyd is the administrative officer. We also have an advisory board of 10 members across academia, industry, and regulatory bodies. I'm about to join as well this advisory board, and we're essentially critical friends to the institute. I wish I could tell you more about the behind-the-scenes work, but because I'm just about to join, I believe that the best way of contacting the institute, if you'd like to ask more questions, is the email address that features. Oh, it doesn't feature. The email address which should feature at the slide, but it features on my copy, which is contact-risks@bristol.ac.uk. And we also have partnerships with a range of governmental organizations, tech vendors, and also cybersecurity organizations. Now, just to briefly introduce a couple of fellows of RISCS. Do we have any fellows here in the room? Any show of hands? No? No? Okay, great. So then I'm going to introduce them here very briefly. So this, the RISCS Senior Fellows is a program for current cybersecurity leaders, senior cybersecurity professionals, academics, who they all have their respective agenda. So while Maria works in cybercrime, Anna works on quantification, Lizzie on responsibility, Will on literacy, and Tim on international relations. There are 3 more people joining soon. I think you should be able to actually spot them on the website. This has been just refreshed yesterday. So if you're interested to find our 3 new priorities, visit the RISC website. We also have the so-called Associate Fellow program, I've been told, is for the rising stars of cybersecurity. And I said in the kind of scarecrows because I'm on this slide and I don't know, it's kind of a bit weird to say that. However, we've got Richard, who is a classicist working on video games, Alicia, who works with the virtual reality harms, Jason, who works on surveillance and smart cities, Mariam, who works on femtech and minoritized communities, and myself, who works at the intersection of energy and creative communications. And my involvement in RISCS has been mostly to do with having an opportunity to attend workshops with the NCSC where we could talk about the future of sustainability in cybersecurity and getting involved in bid writing together with RISCS partners. So it's immensely valuable having actually official partners for academic bids, so that your research is not just driven by my curiosity, as much as curiosity is important, it's not everything, but also the real problems which exist in the community. So now on to the problems of the community. Work that we have now in the making and is awaiting some final approvals, sign-offs is the RISC playbook. So this is something that you should, again, be able to access very, very soon, and I don't want to spoil the surprise. So all I can say is that we want to have a list of research questions or research problems which are co-created with the cybersecurity community, broadly conceived, and very much work to address those problems together. And the way we address these problems, we work with the 3 horizons. So RISCS community has identified which problems are very much urgent problems, and they can have a responsive, rapid response. Which ones are more about the future, the emerging technologies, and which are the kind of standing items which will never go away, the kind of so-called wicked problems of cybersecurity. So now to the question of what even is sociotechnical cybersecurity, and I believe that you all here for a reason. The impact at the end of the day is all about human-centric, social-centric cybersecurity, so it's not exactly kind of new audience to pitch it to, but let me give you a very brief history of sociotechnical cybersecurity, and I appreciate you can't really fit the whole history on a one slide, but so this is huge simplification. And it starts in the 1980s when I wasn't even around here, so I'm sure there are some people who are more qualified to speak about the prehistory of cybersecurity. But the way I see it, at least, is that in the beginning, cybersecurity was firmly based, at least in academia and computer science departments, sometimes in human-computer interactions, and that's not a surprise because ultimately, cybersecurity is about protection of computer systems or software or hardware, so it makes sense that this is the very beginning of cybersecurity. However, I think the community very quickly realized that we can't simply be focusing on protecting the systems. We need to consider the human, and that humans don't always want to do what we tell them, what we kind of program the software to do. So in the 1990s, early noughties, there's been an agenda of usable cybersecurity and ergonomics, human factors, the famous Angela Sasso paper, Users Are Not the Enemy, which tries to understand, again, how we can fit the human factors with the technologies we design. However, I would like to draw attention to a more recent turn, let's say it, to do with more qualitative, constructivist, or even humanities or art-led approach. And I think the difference between the 1990s turn and what we have now is that the value of arts and humanities is that they allow us to question sometimes, is cybersecurity the ultimate goal? And I know that if you are in the business of cybersecurity consultancy, maybe this is not exactly what you're here to hear, but sometimes cybersecurity comes at the expense of other priorities, for example, inclusivity, for example, sustainability, for example, cost, and sometimes I think that ultimately the perspective from critical social sciences and humanities is about questioning whether cybersecurity should always be the goal. So now to the now I'd like to move to the secure by design bit and whether there is such thing as sociotechnical security by design. And our thinking in RISCS was along the lines of that secure by design has become the paradigm, the key way to do things in the UK government when it comes to cybersecurity. It's mentioned everywhere. However, it typically relates to software and hardware security. So first of all, we want to ask, okay, well, can humans be somehow involved in the loop of cybersecurity by design? And can we even conceptualize it and give some useful recommendation? But also once we started to look at security by design in our recent project with the Cabinet Office, we also noticed that when you look at different sources which refer to it, they refer to slightly different things. There is no single definition of security by design. There's one software development paradigm, which is called secure by design. There is digital security by design, which is about development of Cherry and Morello's secure chip architecture and finding out who wants to use them now. There is secure by design, the IoT product specifications to do with passwords and to do with having your vulnerability disclosure policy. And finally, there is a kind of the internal government secure by design approach, which is all about risk-driven decision making and using a cyber assessment framework and using principles rather than prescriptive control. So these approaches have something in common, but I wouldn't quite say they're very tightly defined. And what I think they have in common is this by design that refers to highlighting the power of anticipation, that in many ways we as humans can be sometimes predictable and we can learn a lot about future potential uses or future potential attacks from the past examples. So now kind of let me tell you a little bit about design. And I think design can be a very powerful lens of looking at cybersecurity, but also it has several limitations. So one powerful bit of design, just like when you think about traffic lights, I like to think that most traffic lights in the UK have the button on the right, so you can see the oncoming traffic from the left, and that's a really good nudge for you to behave in a little bit of a safer way. However, that doesn't always work. We cannot always design out our very human preferences and a very human experiences. So the middle example, the desire paths, is the kind of common tension between the design and then the human experience. We just want to have the quickest way possible. And then finally, sometimes actually design can be really harmful. So anyone who has used cross-country trains, and is a cyclist can confirm that. I'm not sure who designed those bicycle carriages, but they've never seen a bicycle in their life. I don't know. I'm just still, whatever. I'm still angry just thinking about it. But, and however, I think there's an analogous situation to cybersecurity. Like, let me think about, for example, CAPTCHA, which is, a security control, and blind users who they cannot see CAPTCHA. So how are they supposed to, be verified and confirm to the robot that they are human? Come on, it's not fair. So now I'd like to share you a couple of insights from the energy industry about how energy practitioners, whether they're cybersecurity practitioners or a little bit outside cybersecurity, how they understand the by design paradigms and some others. So in the recent paper called Who Will Keep the Lights On? Expertise and Inclusion in Cybersecurity Visions of Future Energy Systems. I like my mouthfuls when it comes to titles. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Why not? You got the space, you got to use it. It's a peer-reviewed paper. It's out there. It's open. You can download it. I don't charge you. I'm not selling it. It's fine. So in this paper, we have interviewed energy practitioners and asked about their positive visions for cybersecurity governance in their sector. And we used a theoretical lens of imaginaries from the science and technology studies. So basically, the idea of imaginaries refers to professionals' visions, positive visions for futures, and how these visions have some assumptions inbuilt into them, and how we can, once we uncover the assumption, we can understand how those kind of high-level visions about the future lead to then government strategies, government policies, and the real kind of ground-level actions. So in this paper, I've presented three main visions and analyzed how they contingent and what these visions assume or hinder. And I think, to me, the paper points to quite interesting debates about what is the so-called epistemic power of those future visions. So, who should really have the platform to speak up about the future? Why are we even asking those people? Who are they to tell us what their futures are? Are there any visions that we're missing? Are we any people that we should be asking about what are they positive visions for cybersecurity? And now, without going too much into detail, because the paper is about 30 pages long, so I don't have time for this, even though the generous speaker slot, but still. So without going too much into detail, the first vision we called cybersecurity by design, after what our participants told us in their own words. And what participants told us at the time, what they understood by cybersecurity by design, is, I think, more akin to the IoT secure by design upcoming regulations. So this idea of the minimum security baselines, the minimum standards that are shared across different product vendors or different companies. So kind of, in a way, quite prescriptive vision, but also quite technocentric vision, because here the experts decide on the notion of sufficient security, and then they share it with each other. And then the second vision, which we call security as a support function, this one is a little bit more subjective and is slightly more community-based. And here this one advocates that all energy workers, so whether they are technical people or in other roles, they should subjectively agree on what they consider good cybersecurity, and they should subjectively fill the kind of various risk assessment decisions. And finally, the third vision called for public understanding of cybersecurity and public involvement in technology adoption. So things like electric vehicle charging stations or smart heaters and so on and so on. And here this vision says that, well, it's not just cybersecurity, but it's also usability, it's kind of testing of those innovations, it's also kind of mundane errors, and we really need to get people on board if they're about to use those technologies, because if we don't, they just simply won't use them and we won't get to net zero. And I think, you know, if for anyone who kind of remembers the smart meter adoption plan and how people not necessarily rejecting smart meters, but just were so apathetic and they just did not see that what's the point of smart meters. And I think from the public communication point, that was a bit of a fail. Sorry. And I think also what this paper says is that currently none of the professional visions recognize that there is a curious interplay between the professional expertise that is very much needed in cybersecurity, but also the need for inclusion of the non-experts, of the lay publics, of energy consumers. So the tension is that on one hand, it seems like the first vision, the most kind of prescriptive vision, would be the most straightforward, the easiest to implement, because, you know, here are some baseline, you know, passwords and so on, like these 5 things you have to do. But then we miss an opportunity of a genuine debate with the public. So, you know, why is it so important to have passwords? Why is it so important to disclose your vulnerability policy? But on the other hand, the more participatory and the more open you want your vision to be, the more it assumes that, well, people are interested in talking about this, people are literate in the digital sense, but people are also empowered to have those inherently quite political conversations. So, on the notion of public empowerment, I'd like to share with you a project that I have been involved in last year. It's called Electric Fields, and it's, 5 minutes already. Oh my gosh. And it has been an art commission I have collaborated on with a design researcher called Joel Bourne from Lancaster University. We have commissioned 4 artists who are all illustrators, and we have then featured those illustrations at 3 public events, 1 cafe in Bristol, 1 science festival also in Bristol, and 1 called Digital Design Weekend at the V&I Museum in London. And in total, it's been amazing. We have engaged over 1,300 people in total, and not just people who see the images, but actually in really in-depth, really cool conversations with people of all ages. It was fantastic. And the reason why we wanted to bring this as an art project is that this notion of digitalization in the energy industry has been so far quite invisible. You know, it's a transition that is very much happening in regulations, in the industry. There's lots of stuff happening behind the scenes, but we're not really quite communicating the repercussions that we might have on the members of the public. So we really wanted to explain, first of all, what's happening, but also any potential cybersecurity implications of that. And aside from 4 beautiful illustrations, we also run interactive activities. So, for example, we run this rapid clay prototyping workshop where we ask visitors to make their own kind of smart thingamajig. So, kind of an imagined smart thing they like to see in their future home, and people, you know, came up with stuff like opinionated bins which judge your recycling, also something like that. So it was quite a lot of weird ideas. And another thing that we ran was this the website called Electric Tarot, where we commissioned the artists to present a set of emotions that they feel about cybersecurity, digital technologies. And then we had empty cards, as you can see on the 3rd image. And we asked people to draw their own emotions. And then we put them on the website and run with a random shuffle. And, you know, people got their tarot reading. They were really weird emotions, not very positive. So sorry. And finally, a very quick mention of the project that I have started in October. So this is a fellowship on the adoption of digital twins in the energy sector. And again, digital twins, another buzzword. There is no single definition, but all it comes down to having a very fancy model / simulation of something that exists in the real life. Originally, that was supposed to be kind of closed engineering systems, say airplane engine. But now people talk about digital twins of hearts, brains, cities, power grid policies, like all sorts of ideas. However, again, it's a term which is quite popular. It took off in the energy industry. So what's currently happening in this space, there's a government-funded part of National Grid which commissioned this project called Virtual Energy System, which is ultimately a plan to create a data sharing infrastructure for energy companies to build their own models in the future. So we've got all these. There's a big question, can we even design for, first of all, sharing, interoperability, security, and privacy? Can we have it all as a sector, or is it a little bit too much to ask? And I think a nice little anecdote which illustrates this is this case of Open Data Triage, which is a data sharing playbook developed by Energy Network Association, which tells you how to share data without, frankly, much level of detail, but still, it's something. So what happened a few months ago is one energy company, they went for the data triage, they shared their data, and then the NCSC, hopefully no one in NCSC is here, then they judged this triage as incorrect, as a security breach, and the very interesting fallout from this event happened because the energy company said, well, this is just a part of the learning. We are innovating, we are digitalizing, we will have those breaches. It's just part of our journey. And then CSC was like, no, this is the first and last time. This will not happen again. So to me, it points at the very interesting tension. Just is security this existential thing? Are we like minesweepers? We can only make one mistake, or is it just like one of many requirements? And finally, something that I think it's yet to be addressed is that data sharing is not just this lovely kind of cozy value that we all love. There is a very dark side to it, from privacy breaching and citizen-state surveillance, which I think needs to be addressed. So, and I'm still recruiting for this, for interviews, for workshops. So if you work in this area at all and like to contact me somehow and tell me about your experiences, please get involved. And I don't know how much time I've got, but this is my last slide, so I just wanted to show you a couple of tarot cards that artists and members of the public developed. So the first one, very well-known frustration with passwords. Second one, a person who is now being contacted to lower their energy usage despite them being ill and frail. The third one, someone who's just completely confused about what is cybersecurity. And the final one, someone who sleeps soundly because they trust that their data is in a secure location. So that's it from me. You can contact me on my university email or find me on the usual socials, just not Facebook, please. And I'm happy to take any questions if there's time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm definitely not the one at the end that sleeps soundly because I know my data is so secure. Mike. Yes, at the front.
I'm pretty loud though. I don't know.
Just in case, just for the people at the back, just so we ensure they're okay. Thank you.
Hi. So at the very beginning, you said something about creative methods of communication. I see this very creative way of the tarot cards. This was great. I love it. Can you share any other precise examples of this?
Yeah. So another example is on the kind of when I had the slides with images from events. The comic on the left was about experiences of workers in a power plant who witness a mysterious breakdown event. And as you know, in cybersecurity, when there is something happening, we don't know what is accident, incident, mundane error, nation state attacker, something else. And quite often, I think it's really difficult to communicate between the security teams and operational safety teams that they need to work together to figure out the root cause. So this little comic, I've traveled with it to public events, but I've also traveled with it to to engineering type events to kind of show that, hey, yeah, you guys, you security safety people need to work together. Because yeah, that's what happened when the mysterious breakdown happens in a wind turbine or elsewhere. Yep.
So you mainly rely on like images for communication, though, like nothing.
Yeah, right now, yes. Although something that we have done in 2022, also with Professor Genevieve Lively, there's this collection of short stories called Secret Lives of Data. I think if you just Google Secret Lives of Data PDF, you can find a version for free. and it's really nice, a selection, I think 10 short stories, which are all about different aspects. Like one about digital rubbish, like the files that get forgotten. There's one about encryption. There's one about surveillance and cats, written by me, because I love cats. And they all just tell you, like really interesting nuggets about cybersecurity without the kind of preaching, oh, you should write your password in this particular way. Yeah, and I think the reason why, so coming back to passwords, I spoke to the Sociotechnical cybersecurity team a few months ago, and they told me, we came to the conclusion that now when we do outreach events with the members of the public, we actually don't even use cyber in the title. We just hide it, because if the minute people start putting cybersecurity in the event titles, it just comes down to passwords, and we know about passwords. That's what they said, at least. I don't know if they do. So yeah. So it's interesting how you frame those events can, I think, really direct the conversations in new ways.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? This is surprising.
Do you have any tips for non-in-person events?
For online events, you mean?
Yeah, that question was, do you have any tips for in-person events, just in case anyone... Oh, no. The opposite.
Yeah.
Online events.
Tips in terms of what?
These kind of creative communications, engagement in general. I think that's the bit that was great before COVID and not.
Yeah. Gosh, it's really hard. I think so. Getting over the awkwardness and getting people to interact, I think is really key, because I think if you sometimes, I don't know about you, but with kind of Zoom or Teams presentation, it's just so easy to just like zone out a little bit and just start multitasking, checking your email. So I think getting involved in little conversations in tiny breakout rooms, no more than 4 people, and just really simple tech, maybe not relying even on the tech, So, for example, something like Mirrorboard works most of the time, but I know for some people it's quite a heavy website to load. So so it really depends who you work with, and I would say that if you prioritize engagement, rely on like as little of technology as possible and have a backup plan.
That's very true. Any last questions? Okay, let's leave it there. Let's speak.
Cool, thank you.